Hi guys, this is a course on how to get a job at United Nations. However, I can tell you this lesson particularly will work for any expat or immigrants that want to move to another country, because it's very important to understand this fact. You and your family needs to be happy where you're going to move. It's very important. We're going to go through these steps so you can understand. When you're going to select a job at the UN, or if you select a country to go live into, I want you to know these things so that you make the right decision for yourself, your family, and your kids. So determining whether or not you're going to go and have a job abroad, there's a lot of things to consider. Now, here the course is for the United Nations, but it applies if you want to go work in the States for Microsoft, or you want to go work abroad for an oil rig or anything else like that. It's very important because you can literally cause yourself a divorce. You could ruin the relationship with your kids. I've seen it happen in so many occasions. Guys, you need to listen to this. I had friends from China moving to Canada. They were so unhappy that the wife moved back. I had friends moving to very, very tough country to live in. The husband couldn't make it, and they moved, and it was pretty bad. Okay, so you need to understand these things. It's very important. Your family is more important than your career, at least in my case. So the first thing you should consider is your family's needs, their comfort, and their goals, okay? So for example, okay, you are working in your country and your wife is a doctor, okay, or a judge or something that is not easy for her to be able to be somewhere else, okay? If she moved in the Middle East, for example, it's not going to be easy. She's not going to become a judge abroad. As a doctor, she might be able to work, let's say if she graduated in China and she moved to Canada, but she might not be able to become a doctor. She might have to go back to school for many years in order to be able to have an equivalency in order to practice medicine. So both of you, is it going to be okay for your career if you move somewhere else? Okay, I'm retired. I've retired at 33 years old. I have no issue following my wife all over the world. Not everybody can do that. Now you have to consider your own goal and desire as well in there. Why are you doing this? Do you want to further your career? You want to increase your revenues? What do you want? You want to experience the world? I move in 10 different countries. I've visited 60. I'm super happy to have the knowledge around the world that I have. That was an amazing goal to have when I move around the world like this. Is it something you want? I don't know. I miss living in Canada. Sometimes I'm in some countries that are making me homesick. Some countries that are boring as hell. Some countries that are super tough to live in that I wish I'd never moved there. So this is the kind of thing you need to know for yourself. Risk versus reward for your family. Yeah, moving to the Philippines is going to be very, very amazing for, getting a maid at home to help you with the kids. It's easy to live in Manila. It's super cheap. It's great. You can have help. If you have a young kid, you're going to have a nanny. It's going to be super good. The medicine is great. Everything is good there. But there's a lot of traffic. Your spouse more than likely will not be able to work, because if you get a job at $10,000 a month, I have a friend of mine who's a judge over there and she makes less than $1,000 a month as a judge. I have a friend who's a banker who makes $800 in Manila. I mean, so if you want to go work there, your salary for your spouse is going to be nil. Don't worry, the UN is going to give you an amount of money for your spouse. That's not a problem. It's not a financial issue. It's the fact that maybe they'll be bored to tears. I don't know. The difficulty with languages, okay? If you move to an Arab country and most people only speak Arabic, you go to work, you don't have an issue, you're in an English environment, your spouse stays home, your kids, and then nobody around you speak the language, okay? You're in France, for example, and most people don't speak French. I mean, I remember living in France. I'm French-Canadian. I have no issue whatsoever. My wife had more issues, okay? On her own, it was more difficult for her. She manages French, but, it's tough. If you speak English, you're going to have issues. If you don't speak English, I have a Japanese friend of mine in Switzerland. She couldn't go anywhere. Only speaking Japanese was basically like being mute. She couldn't talk to anybody. So she had to learn English quickly. This is the kind of situation sometime where your spouse might not be easily able to adapt in a new country. Then there's the popularity of the duty station and the number of candidates applying. You want to move to the United States, that's very cool, but New York is a very, very competitive place. Washington is extremely tough to get into. Geneva, Switzerland, Montreal, Canada, Vienna, These are places, there's a lot of UN organization and a lot of staff, but to get there is extremely difficult. Netherlands, for another example, The Hague, for example, very tough to get there. Okay, a lot of candidates, and those jobs are only 7 years. So that means that after a few years, you're going to have to move again. Are you willing to move like this all the time? Well, if the answer is yes, then go for it. Are you willing to move like this all the time? Well, if the answer is yes, then go for it. Then there's the type of post, the level, the type of contract, right? So are you willing to take a P3 post in New York because you can get one when you can get a P4 post somewhere else? The salary scale is going to be different. Everything's going to be different. Is being in New York that important for you that you're willing to take a lower level of post? I know people that have tried. So basically they moved to Africa. They became P4 in Africa. And then they were like, no, sorry, living in Kenya is not for me. I'm going to move back to New York. And they have basically a lien on their post for 2 years. So they moved back to New York as a P3 because they like the life in New York a lot more than they did in Kenya. Then there's your potential career move and all the advantages that go with it. The potential for advancement. Okay, so for example, you know that the boss is going to retire. He's 60. He's going to retire in a few years. If you move in the position of assistant, more than likely you'll be able to get the job of the boss. If you move to a D or an E duty station, it's going to be relatively easy for you to get in the organization. And after a few years, you'll be able to, from within the organization, move around. So maybe you want to choose the very hard duty station because it's going to be easier for you to get in. So this is the type of thing you need to think about. Now, it's the same thing for anything else that's not the United Nations, guys. Okay, for your spouse, your family. Okay, I know a lot of Chinese that have moved to Canada, and you know, they sacrificed a lot. They had amazing jobs in China. They were doing very well, but they wanted to move to Canada so their kids had a better education or a different education, North American education, and they wanted to move with their kids, and they ended up doing pretty bad jobs. I mean, I have a friend of mine who I hired in my company, and he had a PhD in engineering. And when I found him, he was actually doing basically mediocre jobs, working in a restaurant. He was washing dishes and stuff because his PhD didn't worth anything in Canada. Hired him, and I had no issue whatsoever giving him a salary he deserved, and he was my best staff. But the reality is, I didn't need somebody to sign plans and stuff. I didn't need somebody to approve engineering drawings. If he had not had that, to me, it didn't matter. But the thing is, you know, the wife was not happy in Canada. She couldn't do much over there, especially she was an engineer. So she moved back to China and then they divorced. So you have to really think about it before you move somewhere. Hi guys, I hope that was useful. Guys, before you move to another country, you really have to weigh the pros and cons. It's a huge decision. I've done it 10 times. Trust me, okay? I know you can always backtrack, okay? But if you have a house that you have to sell, you have to cancel your lease, you have to return your car to the dealership and stuff like that. You have to take your kids out of school, out of their environment, your spouse out of her friends and environment. You will lose your friends too, trust me. When you move around the world like this and you lose contact, your family, you need to make the right decision. You need to weigh the pros and cons. I hope that helped you a little bit to understand a little more about how it is to move around the world. Anyway, give me the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I see you in the next video where I'm going to talk to you about how to increase your odds at getting a job at the UN.